On the anniversary of my wedding to my late husband, my son Leo and his wife Chloe drove to visit me at my villa, Le Chêne Bleu. They did not come empty-handed. Chloe, with her ever-present radiant smile, solemnly presented me with an exquisitely wrapped box. "Happy anniversary, Mother," Leo said, embracing me. Inside was a magnificent bottle of perfume. The crystal bottle was designed to resemble an opening flower bud. On the label, in shimmering gold letters, were the words, "Souffle de printemps," breath of spring. "It is a limited edition, Mother," Chloe explained, her voice full of pride. "We had to order it months in advance to get it. I thought this delicate fragrance would suit you perfectly." Their words were full of love and thoughtfulness. I was truly touched. In the lonely months since my husband's passing, small gestures of care like this meant a great deal. I took the perfume bottle, feeling the cool crystal in my palm. "Thank you both so much," I said. "It is beautiful. I will wear it tonight." I carefully placed the perfume bottle on my dressing table in the bedroom, in a place of honor. I had plans to attend a classical music concert in the evening, and I thought it would be the perfect occasion to try this special gift. That evening, after selecting my evening gown, I sat down at my dressing table. My hand was just reaching for the Souffle de Printemps bottle when the telephone rang. It was a call from an old friend in Paris whom I had not spoken to in a long time. The conversation lasted longer than I had anticipated. When I hung up, I was startled to realize I was running late. In my haste, I no longer had time to slowly savor a new fragrance. Out of habit, I grabbed the familiar bottle of rosewater perfume I had used for decades, quickly spritzing it on my neck and wrists. "I will save that special perfume for another occasion, one where I have more time," I told myself. Then, I hastily grabbed my purse and left the house. I had no idea that while I was away, my loyal housekeeper, Juliet, had entered my bedroom to tidy up. She had worked for my family for over 20 years, an honest and trustworthy woman. Upon seeing the magnificent perfume bottle on the dressing table, she could not resist her curiosity. She picked it up, admired it, and then, perhaps in a moment of weakness, she secretly spritzed a little onto her wrist to sample the scent. The next morning, I awoke to find the coffee had not been brewed as usual. The entire house was unusually silent. Sensing something was wrong, I went to knock on Juliet's door. There was no answer. When I pushed the door open, a horrifying sight greeted me. Juliet was sprawled on the floor, unconscious. Her skin was pale, her lips were purple, and her breathing was very faint. I rushed to call for an ambulance. At the hospital, Juliet was taken directly to the intensive care unit in critical condition. The doctors were baffled by her strange symptoms, which did not resemble those of a typical stroke or heart attack. A few hours later, the head of the department found me in the waiting room. His expression was grave. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low, "we have the results of the blood tests. Mrs. Juliet did not have a stroke. She has been poisoned." I was stunned. Poisoned? But what could she have eaten? "That is the thing, it was not ingested," the doctor explained. "This is an extremely potent plant-based toxin that absorbs rapidly through the skin. A very small dose is enough to cause respiratory failure and neurological damage. We are doing everything we can, but her condition is critical. A toxin absorbed through the skin." The doctor's words replayed in my mind, but I still could not comprehend them. It was not until late that evening that Juliet regained consciousness for a brief moment. I sat by her bedside, holding her cold hand. She looked at me, her weak eyes filled with remorse. "Ma'am, I am sorry," she whispered, her breath catching. I was just curious. The new perfume. I tried a little." She did not finish her sentence, but I heard no more. The perfume. The initial shock passed quickly, replaced by a cold calm. I am not a weak woman to be destroyed by fear. I have lived long enough to know that when faced with a venomous snake, the worst thing you can do is panic. The very next day, I secretly drove to the office of my lawyer, Moreau, a trusted friend and legal advisor to my family. I told him everything, from the gift and the unexpected phone call to Juliet's condition and the doctor's conclusion. Moreau listened, his normally composed face growing tense. "We must act immediately," he said, "but we must act in silence, and we need irrefutable evidence." We devised a plan. The Soufflé de Printemps perfume bottle was carefully sealed and secretly sent to a private forensic laboratory in Lyon. At the same time, on Moreau's advice, I installed software on my phone to automatically record all incoming calls. Every word they spoke from now on would become evidence. And then, just as I predicted, they began to call. The first call was from Chloe, her voice laced with concern. "Mother, I heard about Juliet. It is terrible. How is she?" After I gave her a brief update, she moved on to her main question, her tone trying to sound casual. "Oh, by the way, have you tried the perfume we gave you? You must love it, right?" And that is when my performance began. I sighed into the phone, my voice weary and pained. "Oh, Chloe, I have no heart for such things while Juliet is in the hospital. I have left it on the dressing table." A week later, it was Leo's turn. After the same hollow inquiries about my health, he asked the same question. "Mother, have you used that perfume yet? Chloe went to a lot of trouble to choose it." "I know, my son," I replied, my voice faint, "but I wanted to wait for a sunny day, a day when my mood was a little better, to truly savor it. You know, a special fragrance requires a special moment." I always gave them the most ordinary, plausible reasons for my delay, and after each call, I saved the audio file to an encrypted folder. Listening to their voices, I could sense their growing impatience, clumsily masked by words of concern. Their only concern was whether the poison had been used. Each recording was another link in the chain, and the trap I was setting was slowly tightening around the predators. Their impatience became more evident with each call. They no longer had the patience to beat around the bush. "Mother, why do you not just try a little? Just a little," Leo pleaded in one call. "Or how about I come over this weekend to help you tidy up your dressing table?" Chloe suggested on another occasion, an offer laced with a threat. I saved every recording, feeling the trap I was setting slowly tighten. While I continued to play the part of a grieving, procrastinating old mother, my lawyer Moreau and I worked tirelessly. We moved as quickly and quietly as ghosts. The forensic analysis from Lyon came back. The perfume contained a highly concentrated extract of narcissus, a potent toxin that can be fatal upon absorption through the skin, perfectly matching the results of Juliet's tests. That report was sealed and carefully stored. Next, we addressed the most critical issue, the estate. My entire will was amended. The Villa Le Chêne Bleu, the investments, the art collection, none of it would go to Leo. Instead, it would be converted into an arts foundation in my name and my late husband's, a foundation established to support young artists. To ensure Leo and Chloe could never interfere, Moreau set up an intricate, nearly unbreakable trust system. My legacy would be protected, and it would never fall into the hands of murderers. And then, we launched our first strike. An official letter from the bank was sent to Leo. The letter did not speak of attempted murder. It simply and coldly announced the restructuring of my assets. It informed him that his inheritance rights to the main properties had been revoked and replaced by a charitable foundation. I was not there when Leo received the letter, but I could imagine the scene, the confusion, the anger, and then the dawning horror as he realized the true meaning. The poisoning plan had failed. And worse, his mother knew. The act of the naive old woman was over. The real war had begun. Their reaction was faster than I anticipated. Cornered and facing the loss of a fortune, Leo and Chloe acted desperately. A few days later, I received a court summons. My son and daughter-in-law had filed a petition for guardianship over me. The reason they gave: I was showing signs of senile dementia, paranoia, and was no longer competent to manage my own affairs. They claimed my decision to change the will was the clearest evidence of my mental instability. They had turned the tables, transforming me from a potential victim into a senile old woman in need of protection. At the hearing, the atmosphere was suffocatingly tense. Their lawyer, a slick and cunning man, began by painting a sympathetic picture. He portrayed Leo and Chloe as dutiful children, merely trying to protect their frail mother from her own poor decisions. And then he unleashed his weapon. He presented a book of poetry I had published many years ago. They were poems I wrote after my husband's death, filled with images of sorrow, longing, and loneliness. "Your Honor," he said, his voice dripping with drama, "these are the words of a soul sinking into darkness, a person who can no longer distinguish between reality and fantasy. Can we entrust an entire fortune to someone with such delusional thoughts?" It was a vicious attack, turning my own soul and my art into a weapon against me. Leo sat there, unable to look at me, while Chloe dabbed at crocodile tears. But they had underestimated me. Defeat in court pushed them to the brink. Their plan to legally acquire my assets had crumbled, and they knew I was onto them. So, they moved to Plan B, a more ruthless and direct approach. They began by building a false foundation. Chloe, through her connections, bribed a doctor to create a fake medical file for me. The file stated that the mild heart condition I had for years was showing signs of sudden worsening, and that I needed a new, stronger medication. Simultaneously, they had acquired their final weapon, a poison derived from the oleander plant, a toxin that, in small doses, could induce a slow heart failure, creating a death that would look natural due to a pre-existing condition. I did not know their specific plan, but I knew they would not give up, and I would not sit back and wait. I decided to set another trap, one that would expose their desperation and greed. I called Mrs. Dubois, a mutual family friend and a known gossip. During our conversation, I accidentally revealed that while cleaning out old belongings, I had found a box of my husband's love letters. I added, my voice full of mystery, that in those letters he mentioned a secret hiding place, possibly a Swiss bank account I had never known about. The bait was cast, and just as I predicted, the fish took it. A few days later, the new security system I had installed throughout the house sent an alert to my phone in the middle of the night. I opened the video feed. It was Leo. He had used his spare key to sneak into the house, thinking I was sound asleep. The footage showed him going straight to the library, where my husband used to work, and beginning to search frantically. Every drawer, every book was torn through. His expression was no longer that of a son, but of a desperate thief searching for treasure. He returned every night, his desperation growing. I saved all the videos. Just then, I received a call from Juliet. She had recovered and been discharged from the hospital, temporarily staying with relatives. "Ma'am," her voice trembled, "I must tell you something. Before the incident, Miss Chloe questioned me very thoroughly. She asked about your daily habits, the type of tea you drink, and she asked in great detail about the heart medication you take every evening." The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. My love letters had driven them to a frenzy, and now they wanted to accelerate their plan. They were about to make their move, and I was ready for them. After Juliet's call, I immediately contacted Moreau, and this time we went to the police. I presented everything: the forensic report on the perfume, Juliet's testimony, the recorded phone calls, and the videos of Leo ransacking my library night after night. Faced with a chain of evidence showing a systematic plot, the police agreed to cooperate. The final trap was set, this time under the supervision of the law. The police secretly installed additional micro cameras and recording devices in hidden corners of my living room. Everything was ready. As expected, Leo called the next day. "Mother," he said, his voice full of feigned concern. "I spoke with your new doctor. He said you need to be on a new, better heart medication. I will bring it over for you this afternoon." That afternoon, he arrived alone. He sat across from me, placing a new pill bottle on the table. "Here you are, Mother. You should take one right away." I looked at him, the son I had carried and given birth to. His eyes tried to feign concern, but I could see the tension and a cold glint behind them. "Thank you, my son," I said, my hand trembling, this time for real. I opened the bottle and took out a small white pill. He was staring at me, unblinking, waiting. I slowly brought the pill toward my mouth, and just as it was about to touch my lips, I was suddenly seized by a violent coughing fit, a racking, convulsive cough. I dropped the pill onto the marble floor, where it landed with a sharp, dry click. That was the signal. The living room doors burst open. 2 plainclothes police officers stormed in. "Freeze! Police!" Leo shot to his feet, his face a mask of utter horror. He looked at me, then at the pill on the floor, then at the police officers. He understood everything. Another officer carefully used tweezers to pick up the pill from the floor and place it in an evidence bag. The irrefutable proof. Leo was arrested on the spot. Chloe, as the accomplice who had provided the false medical records, was arrested at her home shortly after. The trial felt like a play for which I already knew the ending. All the evidence was presented systematically. The analysis of the poison in the perfume, Juliet's testimony, the audio files of Leo and Chloe's insistent calls, the videos of Leo desperately searching the library, and finally, the crystal-clear video of my own son's attempt to switch my medication. Leo and Chloe's conspiracy was laid bare before the light of justice. They had nothing left to say in their defense. They were sentenced to long prison terms for conspiracy to commit murder. After the trial, I knew I could no longer stay at Le Chêne Bleu. The villa, once filled with happy memories, was now tainted by betrayal and a deadly plot. I decided to sell it, to completely shed the ghosts of the past. I moved to Paris, to a penthouse apartment, with a balcony overlooking the ancient rooftops of the Le Marais district. I no longer needed a vast space. Instead, I used a large portion of my fortune to fulfill a long-held dream. I purchased an old bookstore, renovated it into a warm and elegant space, and established a literary salon, a place for young writers and poets to meet, share, and create. I became a patron to talents who might otherwise never have had a chance. On an autumn evening in Paris, my literary salon was full, the air warm and filled with quiet conversation and laughter. Young, passionate faces were gathered around, listening intently. Juliet, my loyal companion, stood smiling at the back, holding a tray of wine glasses. I stood on a small wooden platform, no longer the mistress of an empty villa, but the center of a vibrant community. The warm light shone down on the page in my hand. I cleared my throat and began to read a new poem of my own, a poem about rebirth, about finding spring after a long, cold winter. When I finished the last line, a warm round of applause filled the room. I looked out at the faces turned toward me, their eyes bright with admiration and hope. A serene, genuine smile formed on my lips. I had overcome the tragedy. I had transformed the poison of betrayal into a healing balm for myself and for others. My legacy would no longer be cold stone walls, but verses, stories and talents that would continue to shine. And in that moment, among kindred spirits, I had found a new meaning, a true and lasting peace.